people are older coming into retirement homes. When I first started in the industry, it might have been, say, 87. I would push it that it's at least 89 that they're coming in. So they're waiting. And most times there's a lot of programs of the government that are trying to keep people in their home. But so they're coming in at a later point in their life. Is we have a lot of different staff that are actually culturally diverse. So we've, which also means we're trying to attract residents of a different culture base, right? So we've had to learn and understand and to offer some more offerings for maybe those different cultural groups. So for example, we had one home a couple of years ago. We've decided to have, last year we did discovering different cultures, and we actually had special events throughout the year. And one of them that we did was, I think, Diwali years ago at one of our homes. So we brought in the East Indian culture. They did their color special event. It was so touching. The staff got involved with their cultural costumes. There was food. So we're trying to have more choices of some of those different cultural bases. Sifton Properties has different facets of new homes and apartment buildings, rentals. So it brings in a different flair. And for example, our newest home, Riverstone, was designed, the interior design, the designer came from our company, and she did a beautiful job. So it doesn't really look like a lot of other, say, retirement homes, because traditionally what we've done is, you hire the person, and that designer actually designs many of the homes, say, within a city. So if you're going from one property to another, you can see a very similar look. Whereas ours, I think, Riverstone looks different than any retirement home that I've seen in the city and around the city. That's the other thing that I see. It's not now you retire, your life changes. What we've tried to do is it's just the next stage of your life. So if you really were into carpentry, we'd really like to try and see if we can bring that into the programming within our homes and really use where people have been, either what they've done or maybe things that they want to learn to do. Now we're trying to get them involved, that they're running programs themselves, right? Purposeful. They're a smart group of people that have lived an entire life. And so if they were really good, or maybe they traveled their whole life, maybe they want to do some travel logs in our home. So we're trying to really sort of ask our folks that come in, do you want to do some programming that involves you leading some of this programming? And you'd be surprised. One man wrote a book. And so there was a programming at one of the homes that he discussed his book with a group of people, and it was really quite successful. So I think that purposeful programming is kind of what we are seeing as, certainly for us, as a trend that we want to move forward. We're really looking at our menus, that they offer choice. We do not do 2 set dining rooms times. It's an open seating. People want choice, right? If you don't really want breakfast, go down to sort of our little express buffet and you can help yourself, right? So we're trying to really offer some of those choices, because I think maybe yesteryear people were okay with it's this or that. And I think perhaps as maybe the boomers are aging, they're going to want more. It's not just entertainment. We've made improvements with some of the cool cultural events we've done, or the connections we've made with partnerships in the community. So those become programs that are kind of I think it just changes the industry. I think it's something I've been proud of. I think that when you have different, meal choices in your programming, like forget it's not just bingo, right? Like we want to be doing, laughter yoga or drumming. Really like the model of the apartments, the seniors apartments. We offer, some amenities within that. It's not the retirement home, it's an apartment, but it gives a bit of, some of those offerings of some meals, some housekeeping, some programming. Two of our properties have villas. Those are definitely, I think people are really hesitant to downsize, right? But so if you can build perhaps the villas, they're more apt to move into those. Riverstone had 20, we've filled those up, but there's 20 villas, so they're about 1,200 square feet, definitely one floor, couple bedrooms. They have less meals, or they have maybe less housekeeping, but it's, they have their own sort of feel of a bit of a neighborhood themselves. It's a nice blend of a little bit of services for them, but it's just really it's a community with people of like-mindedness, but then we give you a little bit of support. Variety is a key. I think the boomers are definitely, you want something different than I want, if they're not a homogeneous group that they're all the same, they all want to be their own unique identities. They're going to be taking care of themselves. So I think, the hair salon and aesthetics, doing nails and all those maybe things that weren't as high priority, I think will be high priority. We're going to need to be doing, I'm not sure if oxygen bars, but what I mean? They'll be wanting smoothie bars, and they'll be wanting much more, sort of needs driven and some self-care things. They'll be wanting yoga classes because that's what they've done, right? So I think you will see those kind of services probably more pronounced.